They were 6 brothers locked in a cramped apartment for 14 years. Their father gave them free rein to just one thing.
I don't shine shoes anymore.
Movies. They were the boys' only window to the outside world, losing themselves in the wilderness of the last of the Mohicans. The streets of Sicily in The Godfather. And the gritty New York underworld in Goodfellas.
I wonder about you sometimes, Henry. You may fold under questioning.
The films were more than entertainment. They were salvation.
The movies taught us, like, sort of how to speak to one another.
You talking to me?
How you interact with another person, then have an opinion.
Marvin, what do you make of all this?
With hours, days, weeks, months, years to fill, they would watch their favorites again and again.
The Dark Knight.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Blade Runner.
Taxi Driver, Apocalypse Now, Citizen Kane.
No Country for Old Men, Halloween. Gone with the Wind.
Sunset Boulevard, The Thing.
At some point, simply watching is not enough.
Mr. White.
The boys decide to become a part of the movies they love. In the confines of their tiny apartment, their imagination runs wild.
Every time my fingers touch brain, I'm Superfly TNT.
I kind of thought, why don't we do those films? Be those characters.
They painstakingly transcribe every word, spending weeks creating handwritten scripts, homemade costumes, and props.
Inglourious Bastards. How many scenes in the movie is this?
Oh, this is the whole movie.
This is the whole movie?
Every word that is uttered in that movie.
And that's every word that's uttered in Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
Yes.
You've got to be kidding me.
With every line, every hand gesture, every expression memorized, they assign parts and perform. Their only audience is themselves. Scenes from Reservoir Dogs. From Pulp Fiction.
Don't be looking at me like that, all right? I can feel your look.
Batman. Every punch choreographed. Mukunda is the main prop master, creating costumes from anything he can get his hands on.
We got an oxygen tank from No Country for Old Men. Inside, if you want to feel that, that is little Milo tin cans. It's like a Raisin Bran or Quakers, and I would just tape it all together, get the shape, and just color all of it.
That's great.
When we do it, I have to get in the mind of the character to play Batman because it's a responsibility, sort of. That sounds pathetic to some people but to us and to our world, it is very personal.
Did you guys ever look out the windows at other people on the street and wonder what their lives were like?
It was kind of like, oh, look at that, that's a school bus, these kids are going to school, just like in the movies.
As for the neighbors they never saw.
We make up characters out of them. Like if we hear yelling or like loud music, we'd be like, that sounds a little bit like Goodfellas partying. Maybe Robert De Niro was living in there. We just imagine a lot.
Sort of what you miss out on, you make up in fantasy.
For 14 years, they are confined, from first teeth to first words, young boys becoming young men. As they grow, the 4 rooms they live in grow smaller. The claustrophobia becomes stifling.
It's scary to want to break out of that box.
Then, in 2009, their prison shrinks even further. Oscar, perhaps sensing his growing son's growing restlessness, covers the windows that winter with blankets, sealing off the one remaining link to the outside world.
When that was happening, we couldn't even get sunlight looking out the window. I started getting a little like, all right, enough is enough.
It is 2010. The tension in the tiny apartment has mounted.
It starts to reach like a volcano point where something is starting to erupt.
Mukunda's name means giver of freedom, and one morning he wakes up determined to seize his own.
It was a Saturday morning, and I just thought, you know what? I've got to do it today. It's now or never.
He waits for his father to leave the apartment to buy groceries.
I wouldn't dare do it when he was around.
He goes to his prop closet and selects a mask to hide his face. He is frightened his father will see him on the street. The mask he chooses, Michael Myers from the movie Halloween.
There's no way he would be able to recognize it was me.
Right.
And then, 15-year-old Mukunda opens the front door. Down the 16 flights of stairs. and out into the air.
The moment I opened the door, my heart pounded so hard. I was like,
Outside, without his father, for the first time in his life.
what do I do? I'm out in the open. It's all out there. There's no going back now.
He doesn't even know his own address.
I'll know how to get back as long as I keep our building in my sight.
So you just kept looking back here, sort of as your touchstone.
Yes.
But you kept walking.
I did.
mean,
And as I recall, I knew which window was ours, and I saw my brothers. Like
so you
a
came
little
down
cat.
to this corner, turned this way,
I turned left, yes.
turned left.
Were you nervous?
Really nervous.
Still wearing the Halloween mask, he goes into a bank, a supermarket. He is terrified, and terrifying to those who see him. It doesn't take long for someone to call police. Mukunda is escorted away in an ambulance. For most, a nightmare. For Mukunda, it's his first real-life adventure.
I was in an ambulance for the first time. I was never in an ambulance. I was like, whoa, look at this. This is just like a movie set or something. I'm like, they got the siren on? This is pretty wild.
Because Mukunda won't speak, police think he's unbalanced. They take him to Bellevue Hospital, the psychiatric ward.
What was it like being in the hospital?
Fun, I have to say.
Fun?
It was, because I interacted with, like, people for the first time.
He spends a week at the hospital, and when he returns, there is a cataclysmic shift in the apartment. Oscar now knows he's no longer in control.
Basically, it was that first walk down this first sidewalk that
Yes.
broke the
This
spell,
road.
really, over the entire family, right?
It is a walk on Broom Street.